Today in our 2018 Thor Windsport, we're going to be installing SumoSprings Maxim custom helper springs for the rear axle, part number SSR-187-40-1. And this is what our spring is going to look like when it's installed. It's going to mount between the upper bracket connected to the frame and the lower bracket connected to our leaf spring. So when going over potholes or uneven terrain, it's going to absorb some of that shock so it won't transfer into the body, giving you an overall smoother ride. Additionally, when you load down your vehicle, this is going to help provide some cushion and help keep your vehicle at its factory ride height when loaded down. This is going to help keep your suspension at the correct geometry since it's closer to the factory ride height. So even while loaded down, you're not going to get as bad of tire wear as you were before, helping to increase the life of your tires and your suspension components. Before we install our Sumo springs, we'll take our motorhome out on our test course and we'll see how it drives now. I can already tell when turning even slightly, the motorhome wants to rock to the right. And as we go over the bumps, it really starts to sway back and forth. This throwing you around is going to cause fatigue as you're going down the road. If you're trying to maintain yourself steady in your seat and control your vehicle, it's going to leave you exhausted once you get to your destination. And as I go through this longer turn, I can really feel the RV staying out to the outside. It doesn't want to spring back and become level. It keeps you hanging off on one side. Once you straighten it back out, it really sways back and forth as it tries to return to that level center. And now with our Sumo springs installed, we'll head back out on our test course. And even turning right into the test course, I can feel our RV is staying straighter than it was before. And when going over the bumps, I can feel that it's easier to hold on to my wheel and maintain a straight line. It's not jostling me back and forth nearly as much in the wheel or in my seat. So overall, I'm more comfortable and I can already tell it's easier to drive. So on those long distance road trips, I won't have to worry about being so fatigued when I get there. And now on that long turn, I don't feel like a roller coaster going around the edge. It's much more straight up and down. I just feel like I can relax as I drive. To begin our installation, you're going to want to jack up the rear of the vehicle. You need to remove both tires from each side. Then we'll do some pre-installation for our Sumo spring. You'll see 4 holes located here on the top. We want the 2 that are spaced furthest apart. Those will line up with our upper bracket. And we'll take 2 of the smaller silver bolts and thread those down through our bracket. We'll then tighten those down using a 9/16 socket. Our bottom bracket needs to be positioned on our spring so that the square holes and the hook face towards the rear of the vehicle. So we're going to be positioning it like this so it's facing towards the rear. So we'll flip our spring over. We'll line it up with the single hole on the bottom. Use another one of those same silver screws and tighten it down. We'll now set our Sumo spring in place, and it's going to sit on top of our leaf spring in front of our U-bolts here. The hook is going to hook on the inside here of our front U-bolt. Now you may have some wiring and hoses that you need to move up out of the way, depending on your motorhome's configuration. We'll now take our carriage bolts and slide them down through the square holes in our lower bracket. And then on the bottom, you'll take your bracket and slide it up over each carriage bolt. And then secure it with one of the locking nuts on each carriage bolt. We'll then tighten both of those down using a 9/16 socket. We'll now need to place a jack under the axle so we can set the appropriate distance from the top of the frame to the bottom hole in our bracket. You'll want to refer to your instructions for the appropriate distance from the top of the frame to the bottom hole of your bracket. You'll want to periodically check the distance between the top of the frame and your hole to make sure you've got it set to the appropriate distance. Our vehicle here, we want around 6, so we've got it appropriate here at the front. We're going to start with the front, put our bolt in, and then we'll check the other side afterwards and raise or lower it as we need to even it out. We're going to drill out the hole here with a 3/8 drill bit. I've drilled out both my bottom holes. I then placed my hardware through those holes. That's going to be your black bolts. These are a little longer than your silver ones. And then we're going to put locking nuts on the back side. I'm now going to tighten down the 2 bottom ones to make sure that the bracket doesn't vibrate around while drilling out my top holes. We're going to tighten that down using a 15mm socket and wrench, or you can just use 2 15mm sockets. Once you've drilled out your remaining holes, you'll install the hardware just like we did on the bottom. Once you've got everything tightened down, your spring's completely installed, and you'll use the exact same steps on the other side to get it installed. And that completes our installation of SumoSprings Maxim custom helper springs for the rear axle on our 2018 Thor Windsport.